All right. Now, the first show, it's Mayday, 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 our first show of the month of May here. The White Sox, can they keep it going as they go back out west against the Padres, while the Cubs will try to see if they can keep their momentum going as they host the D-bats and the rest of the week in baseball. Also, the NBA and Stanley Cup Playoffs are both getting very interesting as some teams have already advanced. Could we be getting to Game 7 in some of these spots? Also, one of our good friends of the show just got a promotion in other sports media news. Could a future Hall of Fame quarterback be making the jump to television? And so much more. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown will join me in just a second here in our first show of the month of May. Second C Sports starts right now.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Keep him on the field. And this one, a drive in the left center field. Going back is Churio at the wall. Get out! So Robert Jr., his fourth of the season. And the Sox take the lead 2-1.
Armstrong gets into another one. Sends Edman back. He's watching it land in the stands. What a night from Pete Crow Armstrong. Goes wide, up the guard again. And he scores. What a play!
On Jordan Bennington, no chance at all for the Blues netminders. Connor Bedard. Wow.
Getting what a pass. Buzelis with the fade on the drive.
Uzi motions up. They're blitzing. It's picked up. Caleb Rose, middle of the field. Loveland catch. Breaks away the 30. Loveland 20. Loveland 10. Loveland end zone. Touchdown Bears!
Welcome to another fun Friday fun edition of Second City Sports, the first show for the month of May. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in Chicago. LaKeena McGee is she. Sidney Brown here. You know it's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, again, IG.
Be sure to download the Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion, do not 2 hour extravaganza. We'll call it Sports Talk Radio. Just the comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you. But you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I've given LaKeena full powers to give you dumbos to bill and be a boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, shout out to our live game. That's LIVE, live entertainment game that's checking us out live in the living color right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels at 12:28 p.m. Central Standard Time. Excuse for the late introduction, folks, because of technology issues, but thank you for joining us. But as always, much love to the replay game that's checking us out on the replay, also at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels. Don't you ever forget our motto where we talk sports, music, or entertainment. We will provide.
We'll provide you with some of the best here on Second City Sports, of course. Sorry for the late start, folks. Oh, you gotta love technology. The first show of May, of course, some interesting results in the NBA and NHL playoffs. Will there be a Game 7 in one of these playoffs? We'll talk about that. We already are going into the Game 7 and 1 already, so on the NBA side, so we'll talk about that later on. Also, sports media news. A good friend of the show just got a job promotion. And could Russell Wilson be exchanging the pads for the mic? We'll talk about that. And we'll have Live Golf with some of the top players be going back to the PGA Tour. We'll talk about that. And other sports media type news. Excuse me. And also we'll talk some baseball, of course, as the Cubs. We'll talk about the Cubs in a second here, but so much more. But first, we got to talk about the White Sox. The White Sox will try to continue their momentum as they go to San Diego to face the Padres coming up starting later on tonight. And look, you got to give the White Sox credit. They're right there to think of it. I know a lot of White Sox fans are already looking at the standings. Look, the AL Central, they're still right there within striking distance. Only a game and a half back. But again, we always warn folks not to get too, involved in the state, especially this early in the season, because a lot can happen. But look, you give them credit. Look, they've been hitting the ball well. They've been pitching very well. Murakami's been hitting, the ball very well. Also, close to Montgomery and Sam Matanagi. He had a big hit to get that sweep against the against the Angels. But look, I think I will encourage White Sox fans, like, you be excited, but keep your expectations low. Like I said, I know some folks are looking at the stands like, look, we're right there to think of it for the AL Central, blah blah blah. Look, we're not going to do this through the standings thing right now. But Sid, what do you think about the White Sox and what they've been doing so far this season?
Well, this is the first time since I believe 2022 that they had a 500 record or better during the month of April. So those are encouraging signs there. But what's been keeping this White Sox momentum here, as you mentioned about the hitting, Munetaka Murakami, Miguel Vargas taking turns and swinging a hot stick. You mentioned by Sam Matanagi what he did to force extra innings as part of that sweep on Wednesday against the Angels. Of course, Costa Montgomery has been heating up for the last 2 or 3 weeks. You're seeing signs from the youngsters that you expected to see improvement from. Let's talk about the starting pitching this past week against the Angels. Minus Anthony Kay, who stunk it up last Monday. Eric Fetty, who was brought back again for the second time in 3 years. He pitched a good game on Thursday. Besides giving up those 2 solo home runs, he pitched well. Also, too, you have to give Davis Mertens. I told you he was going to be the breakout star of this rotation. So far, he's done the job. Me personally, I think he could be a second All-Star if he has a great month of May, but we'll see about that down the road. But all these signs are starting to point to right now, give the players credit for going out and executing, and give manager Real Venable credit as well for keeping these guys motivated and holding them to an expectation of, you got to play hard, you got to play innings 1 through 9 or beyond. Do not quit. I want you to give me maximum effort every day. If you do that, you'll put yourself in with the chance to win some ball games. Right now, the White Sox are doing that with this young squad, and we all know that their full team is a full, complete team that we want to see for this year is not up yet in terms of other prospects. But for the team that they have now, due to the injuries that they suffered and some inconsistencies from some of the guys that have been cut or injured, they're playing competitive baseball. That's what you like to see from a young team. They're building an identity that fans can be proud of.
You listen to Second Stage Sports on Sports Social Chicago. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown with you. Talking some White Sox baseball here for a couple of minutes. Now you got the late start, but like I said, we'll take a break. As soon as we finish talking to the Sox. I mean, look, like I said, I think, their slugging percentage has been really solid. Look, like I said, I mean, it is going to be interesting to see if they can keep it up. They're 14-17, so it's not like they're considering where they were last year. I think you got to be feeling pretty good if you're the White Sox right now. But I think I'm at the point where I'm kind of like, I want to see more before I do the whole standings watching things.
Yeah, we all know that this year was not about standings watching for the White Sox, but if they continue to surprise folks, the standings watch could become a reality between now and the All-Star break. But those are long ways away. As you mentioned, compared to last year, think about where the Sox were around this time last year. Costa Montgomery, who got the game-winning hit on Wednesday. Wednesday was the 1-year anniversary. He got sent down to Arizona to figure things out. Of course, he was brought up July 4th at Colorado, and he hasn't looked back since. Edgar Quero at this time last year, I think he was the first of the few prospects that were brought up. I know he's struggling at the plate this year, but he has control of the pitching staff from behind the plate. Remember, Chase Montrock was brought up as well, and he struggled a little bit. It looks like he's starting to figure some things out now 1 year later. So remember, we didn't get the full stint of this team until after the All-Star break, in which this team finished 8-9 games below 500. Right now, they're playing at the same pace, just a little bit better than the second half of last year in terms of record. But we still haven't seen the likes of Hagen Smith potentially here. and also too, I know Tanner McDougal was injured right now down in the minor leagues. We'll see what happens with that. And we haven't seen Braden Montgomery here yet. So if one of all those three guys come up later on in the season and this White Sox team starts to make a bigger jump, then you can really get excited. I am excited right now, but we haven't seen everybody yet. Just like last year, we get little hints and bits and tastes of it, some crumbs here and there, and they're good. We just want the whole enchilada in and keep this good positive momentum going.
Noah Schultz goes on the buff tonight. We'll see if he can keep going. He had a great start earlier this week. He faces Yerman Marquez, who's 3-1 this year. We'll see how that hitting, hope they can keep up with the hitting. Sean Burke against Michael Caine tomorrow. So you're actually facing some of the top pitchers in for the Padres. So we'll see. This is going to be the big test for the White Sox. And speaking of K, he goes on the bump on Sunday against Randy Vasquez, who is 3-0 right now. So you're actually facing the heart of the pitching lineup for the Padres. So we'll see how this White Sox team, especially with this Hitman, we'll see how they do against this squad. So again, this is going to be a big test for them. So we'll see what happens this weekend.
Yeah, surprisingly, the White Sox have done well on the road this year, minus their early beginning of the season road trip at Milwaukee and at Miami, where they took just one game out of those 6. But the last time they went out on the West Coast, 4-2, they beat the A's in Sacramento, Oakland, as we call them on the show, and they took 2 out of 3 from a mediocre, maybe some people call it above average, when it's all said and done, Arizona Diamondbacks ball club. So there were some encouraging signs there. Also, too, I'll leave you with this before we go to break. Guess how many saves that the White Sox had last year? Who was your league leader in saves with Jordan Leisure? Guess how many saves that he had last year without Googling quickly?
12. I'll just say 12.
7. And this year, Sir Anthony Dominguez has 7 saves for the White Sox, and that's just in the first month of April. So we give the offense credit, we give the starting pitching credit, and rightfully so. The bullpen deserves some of that love as well. As I mentioned just a second ago, Sir Anthony Dominguez, who signed a 2-year, $20 million contract, 7 saves already in the month of April.
All right, I'll take a really quick break. We'll go across town and talk about the Cubs, who had a solid finish their road trip, because thankfully the Cubs didn't have to face that Padres pitching lineup. That's how they were able to take advantage and win 2 out of 3 out there in San Diego. So they're back here. They face the Diamondbacks, the aforementioned Diamondbacks. We'll see if they can keep their momentum going, even though the pitching's been a little bit weary since there have been a lot of guys that have been hurt. But also to the rest of the week in MLB, and another manager that's getting this pink slip and late card. We'll have that and so much more coming next. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago. More Diamond Talk coming up right after this.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. On Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel, you can find us at Sports Zone Chicago. And on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch! And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch! You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Whoops! Let's try an easy one.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey McGetty, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
Welcome back to Second City Sports with the hashtag Friday Funga Edition, the first show for the month of May. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid the Kid is me, LaKeena McGee is she. You can follow us truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG. It's Sid Kid 80. Once again, it's Sid Kid 80. That's SIDKID 80. That's KID 80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and the IG.
As we continue the baseball talk to continue our number one discussing the Chicago Cubs and the rest of Major League Baseball. If you have any questions or comments regarding those subjects, we'll take your White Sox thoughts and questions as well for this half hour. You can definitely hit us up right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
PCA is starting to heat up for the Cubs as he actually started heating up during the heart of this series. He had a 3-run home run in the first game against the Padres. And, of course, he had another RBI. And he had 3 RBIs, actually, and also another home run in the rubber match against the Padres. So it looks like he's starting to find his swing as the Cubs take 2 out of 3 against San Diego. They had a tough loss. You probably say it should have won that first game, of course, 9-7. It was kind of back and forth, but unfortunately, the Padres had enough big hits to win that one. But they did, the Cubs take care of business, winning 2 out of 3. The pitch has been really solid, especially after we'll get to the bad news in a second about the Cubs. But PCA is starting to kind of get it going, getting his rhythm going, which is, I think, if you're a Cubs fan, you really wanted to see that. And also, of course, as they get ready to face the D-backs, about 45 minutes from now at Wrigley. And I gotta say, they're 19-12 right now as we're recording this. They're in second place in the NL Central. I think if you're the Cubs, if you're a Cubs fan, you gotta be feeling pretty good about where your team is right now.
Of course, so just like we said around this time last year, you're figuring out your bullpen through injuries right now. Your starting rotation is shaky. I know Matty Boy has made a couple starts ever since his return from the injury list. And like you said, the offense had its early struggles to start the year. Now the offense is starting to come around. The starting pitching, at least with Colin Ray, I know he gets to start later on today to open up the series against the Diamondbacks. But outside of that rough start last week in Los Angeles against the Dodgers, he's been solid. And so the other guys that are expected to step in and step up, they have done the job. So Craig Counsell, I think this has been his best managing, in my opinion, in that Cubs uniform in the last couple of years. So guys are expected to step up whenever the main guys go down. They're doing the job. So, but it's mainly led by their offense first, and as their pitching, starting pitching, at least has been solid. The bullpen came up big these last couple of days against the San Diego Padres, but it's been the offense has been carrying them, and then with their starting pitching, whoever's been filling in, that's been the rock of this team.
Yeah, congrats to Craig Counsell as he got his 900 career win, I should say, in that Tuesday game as the Cubs came back to beat the Padres. Of course, he likes a good Merlot apparently too. I hope we learned that a little bit of that about him after that. That's how he drank a little bit of Merlot to celebrate the 8-3 win on Tuesday for his 900th managerial win. But even so, I think if you're the Cubs, yeah, just a steal. He had a setback. Hall of Famer, of course, TV analyst Rick Sutcliffe made the announcement on ESPN 1000. Jesse Rogers confirmed it as well, and they're actually now aiming for perhaps maybe July, maybe August for the playoff push with that flexor strain. So yeah, that sucks. But unfortunately, I think if you're the Cubs, right now you're kind of like you're hanging on by a thread. Your pitching's been okay. Could it be better? Yes, but considering the fact that you haven't had a lot of healthy arms, I think that's not a bad thing. But again, I'm sure Jed Hoyer is probably thinking, okay, who can pick up? There's still some guys out there that don't have jobs right now. So you gotta think that, especially if this is gonna be an issue with Steele, you gotta think that they're gonna be doing that. But at least so far, the pitching has been hanging on by a thread, but it actually has been okay.
Yeah, and like I said, that offense is starting to help them out. So, and that's another element that's keeping this Cubs team above water right now. You mentioned sending one game back at Cincinnati in the in the National League Central. But this move or lack thereof may cost Jet. I'm not gonna say will cost him his job, but many Cubs fans are gonna look at Jet if this starting pitching starts to sink again and not make a recovery. If the offense starts to puddle again, to plummet again. Remember, Lucas Giolito, former White Sox pitcher, he did well with Boston last year. He got picked up by San Diego. I know the White Sox will see him this weekend, but that's a whole other issue. But Lucas Giolito got signed by San Diego a few weeks ago. The Cubs had a chance to sign him, but they chose not to for whatever reason. Now, you're not going to pick up a quote-unquote ace at this early part of the season, but if the Cubs suffer another serious injury or two in that starting rotation, if you're Jed Hoyer, that's going to become your number one priority for the August 3rd trade deadline. So, like you said, hopefully you don't have any other setbacks in terms of injuries in your starting rotation. Shota Imanago, who gets to start tomorrow, he's been pitching well. And also, too, you have Javier Asado, who's been asked to fill in the role. He's been doing a great job. Jameson Taillon, whoever we haven't mentioned yet until now, he's been pitching well. So, hopefully those guys I just mentioned, if they don't get hurt, I think that this Cubs team will be okay. But that offense has continued to be consistent.
Yeah, Dansby Swanson bounced back for a butt. What was a butt? I don't know what was wrong. Something was wrong with his tuchus on Monday, but he came back and had a couple of big hits and and a couple of RBIs in that series against San Diego after the butt, whatever that was. That was a butt cramp or whatever the hell that was. But he kind of laughed about it, and they won the next two, so they can kind of laugh about it now. But here's your pitching matchups for this series. Should be a good one. Here you got Colin Ray and Zach Gallen. That should be a fun matchup. The aforementioned Shota, who's had a solid last couple of starts, he faces Ryan Nelson. That's tomorrow. And also the rubber match will be Matthew Boyd, the aforementioned Matthew Boyd against Merrill Kelly. So, yeah, there's no reason why the Cubs shouldn't win 2 out of 3 in this series. The Diamondbacks have been kind of up and down, so you can kind of take advantage of that. And this is after, after that you got Cincy. This is gonna be a big series. I don't want to say it's a big series in early May, but this will be a big series for them coming up against Cincy the 4 after this one. So don't get caught looking ahead. Take care of business against the D-bats if you can, and that way you can kind of once you do face the Reds, you can kind of get it going. Hopefully,
yeah. And let me give you a wrap up on the Cubs before we talk about the rest of baseball too. Shout out also to Ryan Rolson, the left-hander who made his debut in the bullpen during this West Coast road trip. 5 scoreless innings in the 2 wins against the San Diego Padres, including picking up a save. Great job by him. And Matthew Shaw, LaKeena, I know he's your third baseman. He had a great game on Wednesday, went 3 for 4 with a home run. But I know he was supposed to be the utility guy and to play right field some of the time before they picked up Michael Conforto. But I believe it was in Monday's game where he was stuck to play left field. No disrespect to the young man, but I know he's doing what he's asked to do. But Craig Counsell, don't put Matt Shaw in left field no more. Don't do it, please. I don't know. I'm referencing the play that when he booted the ball on Monday, which gave San Diego the lead, but that did not look good. I know he's your utility guy, but don't put him in left field anymore. I'm just saying.
Nah, not at all. So yeah, we'll see what the Cubs go against the D-bats. This starting in about 45 minutes for right now. As I can see, Sports on Sports on Chicago. LaKeena, McGee, Steve Brown with you. Talking the rest of baseball here, and well, you know what? Let's go. Let's do this first. Rob Thompson, who was was the manager of the Phillies, got his pink slip and late card earlier this week. And how do the Phillies respond? Well, they sweep the Giants. So maybe having a new voice there, unlike the situation with the Red Sox, I guess maybe a new voice is probably was needed there. I love those cool powder blue uniforms. Like that was Yeah, those are ones we grew up with, Sid. So yeah, those are my
Yep,
favorite news. They had a walk
me
off.
too.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So yeah, they had a walk off yesterday, and they actually rallied to beat the Giants to complete the sweep of that series, which was a double header because it rained earlier this week. So yeah, the schedule's a little bit off. But yeah, so what do you think about the whole situation with Thompson and now the Phillies, at least in the short term, seem to be playing very well.
Yeah, usually in situations like this, the players that are left on the team, they don't want to be blamed for why the manager is fired. So they start to play well initially, and then after a couple of weeks, they go back to reality. But for the Philadelphia Phillies, expectations are very high. Remember, they brought back Cal Schwarber, they brought back JT Realmuto via free agent contracts this all season, and let's not forget. Bryce Harper had a couple of few choice words. I'm using air quotes here of manager of now ex-manager Robbie Thompson found that loss against the Dodgers in last year's playoffs. So I think they had a contributing factor there. Besides the team getting off to a bad start. Remember that offense for Philadelphia did not start off well. They started pitching suffer. We know that Zach
Wheeler,
help me out here,
Wheeler, Wheeler,
LaKeena.
Wheeler,
Zach Wheeler,
Wheeler.
thank you. Zach Wheeler is not
Mhm.
back yet. Zach Wheeler is not back yet because he was injured last year. Did not pitch in the playoffs last year, so that's taking a toll. Remember Tajon Walker, who they picked up from the Mets about a year or so ago. He was released after the series in Chicago against the Cubs a couple weeks ago. So there's been some issues that have been lingering here over the last few months, and like you said, um, expectations are high with not just with the organization but with their fans as well. So, and let's not forget, we'll get to the rest of the schedule later, but. This helps the Phillies right now with this firing because, like you said, they swept the San Francisco Giants, and now they played the Miami Marlins in South Beach this weekend. So you have a chance to right the ship and pile up some wins here. So you know, it's time for this team to start winning, and they're doing a little bit here and there. But this team, along with another team we're going to talk about, sort of 10 out of 12, 15 out of 18, somewhere around that range, and get back into this NL East race because, as we said, but before the season started, it's going to be very competitive. I still believe that, but Philadelphia has to turn around now, and with this quote unquote soft schedule that they're facing right now, they have a chance to do that.
And Kyle Schwarber had, especially with that double header yesterday, he had 7 hits, he had 3 walks,
Mm-hmm.
2 doubles, no strikeouts, and 2 homers. That's the best since you got to go all the way back to Lou Gehrig, who also did a doubleheader all the way back in August of 1935. So, yeah, pretty elite company there that Schwarber's joined. So, yeah, hopefully we can go and keep it going against the Marlins. Now, speaking of the Marlins, they went 2 out of 3 at Dodger Stadium, and I'm sure Dodgers fans are already freaking out. But look, you got a lot of guys that are hurt right now. Guys have been out for various reasons and such. So yeah, you know how Dodgers fans are. They're like, oh my god, like they lost 2 out of 3 to the Marlins at Dodger Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, that was the horrors in the world. Chill, folks, it's okay. Unfortunately, the Mets. They lose 2 out of 3 to the Nationals. They've lost 7 out of 10. So maybe they need a little shakeup too. Who knows? The Braves. They had a good week. They won 2 out of 3 against Detroit at home. So that's not So yeah, but I think that no one's really run away in the NL East. So I guess if you're the Phillies, you gotta be feeling pretty good about that right now at the very least.
Yeah, outside the Atlanta Braves, everybody else has been tripping over their own 2 feet. Give you a wrap up of the New York Mets. I did had a chance to watch some of that game live yesterday in the afternoon affair against the Washington Nationals. And I know Carlos Mendoza has been asked 1,000 times about his job security, and he said he knows what's going on, obviously. So this team has to win. Obviously, the clubhouse isn't good, but the Mets pitching has been terrible, and they're taking it turns of not being one of the main reasons why they're not winning. Of course, Juan Soto, who just came back over a week and a half ago from his injury, he was robbed of a home run yesterday. It turned out to be the difference in the ball game. Me personally, LaKeena, I'm surprised that the Mets didn't decide to pull the trigger. But I'm not a conspiracy theorist. But listen to this: they had 3 against the Anaheim Angels over the weekend. They play on the West Coast next week against Arizona. And looking at the schedule for them for next weekend, they got a nice quote unquote soft schedule for the West Coast, and Yeah, they'll play the Diamondbacks next weekend, but in the middle of the week they will face. I'm looking it up here quickly, folks. So bear with me. The Mets have a soft schedule out on the West Coast, and I think if you read between the lines, this will be Carlos Mendoza's last. They play the Rockies this week, so they have the Angels this weekend, the Rockies to start next week, and next weekend they'll play at Arizona. If you read between the lines, if the Mets do not have a winning road trip for this upcoming week, almost week and a half, I think Mendoza is the next manager to get the boot.
Very, very interested to see what happens with that. Now going to the Central, the Reds, they went 2 out of 3 against the Rockies, so we'll see if they can keep it up as well. The Cardinals, I know they've won 4 in a row. They swept the Pirates, the Pirates are now down to last place in the that Central. Also, the Brewers are starting to kind of catch up a little bit. Of course, they went 2 out of 3 against the D-bats. So, like I said, no one's running away in that NL Central either. So it is what it is. I know I made fun of Dodgers fans earlier about you lost to them 2 out of 3 to the Mars. But yeah, but you know what? No one had a good week in that division. So you're like, if you're the Dodgers, you're like, okay, fine. Look, just gotta keep it afloat until most of the guys that can't come back, will come back, can't come back. So just hold it down and just we'll see, and maybe they can make some moves later on this summer.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago City. LaKeena here with you. Let's jump over to the American League. We'll start out in the American League Central. Of course, we talked about the White Sox in our first segment. They swept the LA Angels of Anaheim. The Detroit Tigers, they lose 2 out of 3 to the Atlanta Braves. They won the series finale yesterday to avoid being swept. Couple of injury notes for the Detroit Tigers. Casey Mize, the starting pitcher, left his start on Wednesday, and Javi Baez injured his ankle, which looked really bad at the time. If you saw the play, he had to be carted off the field. And so he was their utility guy last year and actually made the All-Star team. The Detroit Tigers, I know they technically, if you see my air quotes here, they lead the AL Central, but losing those 2 key guys, and Tariq Skubal losing his last couple of starts, Detroit is going, I'm not going to say in a free fall, but they're going through troubled waters right now.
Well, this is usually what happens when we have all these injuries coming up in the year. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with this, because I feel like this is going to be the key where, if Skubal says that, especially if he continues struggling, he may want to trade. So both Mize and Baez are on the IL. Of course, Mize with a growing injury. So I saw that injury when he injured it. When he injured it, and he did not look very comfortable at all against Atlanta. And also too, I saw the Baez injury too. So you hope it's nothing serious, and you hope nothing but the best for him. But it's gonna be interesting to see what the Tigers do. So yeah, it's gonna be where this next month's gonna be pivotal for them now. The Guardians, they lose 2 out of 3 to the Rays. They face they go out west to face the A's coming up this weekend. So we'll see what they do. Minnesota, Minnesota, it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. But yeah, they lose 2 out of 3 to the Mariners out at home. They face Toronto, so we'll see what happens with them there. And also Kansas City, you thought that maybe they're starting to kind of get it going, but they lose after winning their first game, they lose the last 2 against the A's. So with the exception of the White Sox, like I said, no one's running away from that division. But I also would inform folks there's a lot to to figure out here in the AL Central, I should say.
Yeah, and you mentioned with manager changes, we talked about Boston on our last couple of shows. They faced off against Toronto early this week. Toronto, which they struggled to start the year, they're trying to rebound a little bit. Boston loses 2 out of 3 to Toronto. I know Toronto's starting to get their starting pitching turned around. Their offense is starting to heat up. You saw that in the series against the Red Sox, Vlad Guerrero Jr. To be one of them. They just need their other big guys to get it going. I know that George Springer is injured right now. They give Eloy Jimenez the boot in link card. They DFA'd him yesterday, so they're trying to get some guys back. But Toronto's starting to turn it around here. And like you said, the Yankees are the Yankees. I still think they're going to be there at the end. We talked about the bullpen struggling to start the year. It looks like they started to turn things around. Their starting pitchers starting to finally turn around a little bit too. So I think the Yankees still going to be there. Baltimore, they split a doubleheader yesterday against the Houston Astros. We'll see what they could do going forward. And like you said, Tampa Bay, they won 2 out of 3 in Cleveland. That's a scrappy bunch. I know many people are not expecting them to do much this year because they're such a young squad and they're rebuilding. But I still believe that AL East can be competitive. I think it's the Yankees and everybody else. Can Toronto or Baltimore or Boston, can one of those 3 teams get their act together? We'll see.
Yeah, on that Wednesday, that first game, the doubleheader, Ali Rashman, also Jeremiah Jackson. He already has a grand slam earlier this year. He had another one along with Rashman in that the first game of that doubleheader. And of course, Jim Palmer, of course, the Hall of Famer pitcher from the Orioles. Of course, he does TV work occasionally with the Orioles. Apparently, he just had his first chicken wing for the first time in that first doubleheader. Well, look, it was kind of a laugher. So that's kind of that kind of threw me off a little bit. That's hard to believe he's never had a chicken wing, but okay. But yeah, I mean, I think Baltimore could be one of those teams where they could definitely maybe at least maybe not compete for the AL the East division, but also compete for the wild card. That's probably where their best shots. So we'll see what happens there. Now, as far as the West is concerned, the A's, I don't think anybody had the A's leading right now, but again, no. but again, look, we'll see at the end of the month here. But the Mariners are starting to get it going. They win 2 out of 3 against the Twins. Texas, they've been up and down. They of course they lose 2 out of 3 to the Yankees. And Houston, we talked about Houston. Of course, they did save themselves from getting swept against Baltimore. They did split a doubleheader. That's the second half of the doubleheader. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think, like I said, don't do any looking at the standings right now. Like I said, a lot can happen between May 1st and the day end of May, near Memorial Day. So we'll see if a lot of these standings change.
Yeah, as we say all the time on the show, the first real test of how these teams can be is when you look at the standings after Memorial Day, so you get a fair judgment on how these teams are. So, like you said, a lot of outside of Atlanta, the Dodgers to a lesser extent, and of course to the Dodgers to a lesser extent, the Yankees. The rest of the teams are bunched up right now. So, like you said, who's going to separate themselves from the pack, and we'll see who really is a pretender and contender come Memorial Day.
All right, your schedule for this weekend. Arizona and the Cubs, of course, they're about to start in about 20 minutes from now. First pitch. Texas and Detroit. The first game of the Apple TV doubleheader, if you will. The first game of the Cincy Pittsburgh series. That should be a fun one. In the Central, the Brewers and the Nationals. On ESPN Unlimited, the first game of the Baltimore Yankees series. Houston and Boston, Philadelphia and Miami, and San Francisco against Tampa Bay. We'll see if San Francisco can bounce back from being swept earlier this week.
The rest of your weekend schedule looks like this. Toronto will visit Minnesota to continue that 4-game series. The series started. 4-gamer started yesterday on Thursday. The Los Angeles Dodgers will play the St. Louis Cardinals in the Show Me Stadium, Missouri. The Atlanta Braves will visit Colorado to take on the Rockies. The New York Mets, as I mentioned a few moments ago, they'll start their West Coast road trip to take on the Angels. The White Sox visit San Diego. Cleveland will visit the Oakland Athletics in Sacramento, and the Kansas City Royals will take on LaKeena's second favorite team, the Seattle Mariners, out there on the West Coast. Tonight's series opener can be seen on Apple TV Plus at 8:45 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Your nationally televised game, Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, will be at 3:05 tomorrow on FS1. Your Fox regional game for Saturday will be Texas and Detroit. And also, I'm assuming most folks here in the Midwest will get this one, the Dodgers and St. Louis on Fox. Your Peacock game of the week. You got 2 games of the week for Peacock. You got Toronto and Minnesota in the early slate at 11:35. And at 6:20, you got the last series game between Texas and Detroit. So, yeah, you can stream both those games on Peacock. And that's your schedule for this weekend in MLB.
Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 starts after this timeout right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. #Friday Fun. We'll dive into the NBA playoffs. A couple of teams have gone fishing. We'll have a Game 7. And I have a question for LaKeena regarding one of the contests from last night. And, of course, we have to do that hockey and Stanley Cup Playoffs. Another team was eliminated last night. And we have a promotion for Chicago Sports Media for one of our friends of the show and a whole lot more. I'm Sid. That's LaKeena. You listen to Sports Zone Chicago.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
How do you take care of your mind health?
For my mental health, I meditate in the mornings.
I have my dogs. They're the best.
I just find ways that help me just relax.
Finding things that make me happy, like being close to my family.
I meditate a lot and read books.
I have hobbies outside of the game. I'm able to switch off. I'm able to turn my brain off from the game of basketball.
Your mind health matters.
Your mind health matters.
It's a romance sport. What? It's a romance sport like that.
Your Marine Corps' way of life is to defend the American way of life. Every day, no matter where we serve, we take a stand for our nation, for each other, for us all. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Everybody in a work zone is someone's somebody.
This is my mom. She works for KDOT.
This is my dad.
This is my mom.
This is my daddy.
This is my sister.
This is my daddy.
This is my son, Scott. He was killed while working in a highway work zone. When you drive through a work zone, drive like a life depends on it. Because it does.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports, a hashtag Friday Fun edition, the first show for the month of May. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid the Kid is me, LaKeena McGee is she. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and here's again, IG.
We're going to kick off hour number 2 discussing the NBA playoffs in the world of basketball, pro basketball. So if you have any questions or comments regarding that subject or any of the games last night, we're going to preview tonight's contest in the NBA playoffs as well. If you have any questions regarding that subject, hit us up right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up of the screen for you.
Okay, reviewing the games from yesterday. We'll just get this one out the way because it was a laugher. The Knicks, it was all Knicks from the opening tip as they beat Atlanta 140-89. No, I'm not making that score up, folks, because if you saw that the first quarter score was 40 to 15, I should say. No, I'm not making that up, folks. It was basically over with by like halfway through the first quarter. 29 points for OG Anunoby, 24 points for Mikal Bridges, and Brunson, 17. Cat only had 12. So it was really the supporting players that really set up for New York to finish off this series. On the other hand, for Atlanta, Jalen Johnson had 21. Only CJ McCollum only had 11 points, as well as Nikolai Alexander Walker. So yeah, it was basically all Knicks all the time in this one last night.
Yeah, the only dumb thing that happened last night was Mitchell Robinson getting into that fight with Daniels. I know been a pain in the neck this for entire series from Atlanta, but the score I believe was like 72-52, and then Daniels pushed Mitchell Robinson in the back. Of course, Robinson took a step shot and went after him a couple of times. He got himself ejected, but thank goodness nothing else bad happened after that. But as Shaquille O'Neal said on last night on Inside the NBA and on ESPN, it was "We'll keep it clean for the show." BTB. Belt to booty, and we saw that with the New York Knicks these last 3 games of this series. They took it to the Atlanta Hawks, being the aggressive team, playing much better team defense, getting everybody else involved, driving the ball to the basket, making their shots. Last night, the Atlanta Hawks, as you mentioned, they did not shoot the ball very well. 38% overall, 26% from 3. The Knicks shot the ball well last night, 59% overall, 36% from 3. You saw what they did almost a similar fashion, but a little bit lesser score differential in Game 5 at MSG the other night. The Knicks took it to the Hawks early and never let up. The pressure was on from start to finish, and that's what you expect from this New York team going forward in the playoffs. Who will they play? We'll discuss that in just a moment. But for the last 3 games of this series, you saw the real New York Knicks team come out. Let's see if they can play it that way, whoever they face in the next round.
All right, so that 1-1 series over with. This series is going into a Game 7 as Boston lose to the Sixers 106-93. And Joel Embiid, nice to see him. He had 19 points, but PG had 23, 30 for Tyrese Maxey, which is a playoff, ties a playoff high for him. And on the flip side for the Celtics, Jason Tatum got hurt again. He only had 17 points. 18 points for Jaylen Brown, 14 for Peyton Pritchard off the bench. But unfortunately, like I said, that injury, we'll see how he is coming up. I think the Game 7 is tomorrow. If I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I mean the Sixers. Look, this is the kind of Sixers team we were expecting to see this year with all 3 guys, with Maxey and PG and now Embiid healthy. So this is kind of what we expected. I don't think people thought that it would happen, right now. But again, our Knicks fans are a little bit worried, as they should be, for tomorrow night.
It depends on who wins this game tomorrow night. But reviewing this series up to this point, Philadelphia got blown out in the first game. They came back in the second game, get dominated in Game 4 with Embiid coming back. They win the last 2 games of this series. They both in dominating fashion. If you want to be honest with you, here's why: Joel Embiid, whoever's guarding Embiid for the Boston Celtics, he's be able to eat them alive so far in these last 2 games. And thus far, Embiid has been excellent. Paul George, you mentioned, averaging close to 18 points in this series. You mentioned Tyrese Maxey got off the bus scoring in these last couple of games. The Celtics interior defense in these last couple of games have been terrible, but we also have to point out the way they play offensively. They're this decade's version of the Golden State Warriors, and it showed last night in the ugly way. While Philadelphia shot the ball well overall at 44%, on the flip side for Boston, they shot it at 42%. But most importantly, they talk about the Celtics. They take the most threes in the NBA. When they shoot over 40%, they win the majority of the time. When they don't, it gets ugly real fast. And last night they shot it at a 29% clip, 12 for 41. And that Tatum injury didn't help them help out in a way. It did not, obviously, but Jaylen Brown was not aggressive last night. Mike Pritchard, my guy, he disappeared last night. So what can Boston do? Assuming that Jason Tatum plays tomorrow, if you're Philadelphia, you had to go into Game 7 tomorrow in Boston very confident. You won your last 2 games in Boston, games 2 and 5. The Celtics, even though it was a gap year with Jason Tatum, the way he was playing up to this playoff series, even through the first couple of games of this playoff series, the Celtics looked unstoppable. And especially after last Sunday when they dominated Game 4 in a row. Look, hey, I was one of them. This series is over. Well, Philadelphia's been playing with a whole lot of confidence, being aggressive. They're playing with no fear. The Celtics' backs against the wall. I know some people said that if Jason Tatum does not play tomorrow night, it's over for Boston. I don't think so, because this team has been playing without Jason Tatum for the majority of the year. But Philadelphia is a dangerous dog, wounded animals. The Celtics are a wounded animal right now. Philadelphia's coming there with confidence, and if Philadelphia gets off to another strong start like they did these last 2 games, it could go night for Boston. So, is it still a toss-up? Yes. If Jason Tatum plays tomorrow, does it guarantee the Celtics win? It may be on paper, but I still don't think so because Philadelphia is coming in with confidence. The pressure's on the Celtics, even though there was a gap year because they're supposed to be the dominant team. Philadelphia took the heart out of them these last 2 games.
Yeah, Philadelphia has been one of those teams. Like I said, I mean, we thought that they were going to be, especially with all the injuries, so this is going to be over and done with. But give Maxey credit, give a lot of those supporting players credit for kind of keeping them afloat. To kind of be right there in the thick of it. And now that Embiid's now that Embiid's a little bit healthier, I think that's really going to be the key here. And look, if you're going to be playing with house money, I think this could be a good preview for next season for the Sixers. Even if they do lose tomorrow night, who knows? I think it's 50-50, but it could be noted though that one of these times where it could be like, if the Sixers can build on this, even if they do end up losing tomorrow in Boston. So let me just see what happens tomorrow night. Now, the big one here, no Anthony Edwards, no DiVincenzo, and no Ayo. We found out that Ayo had a calf injury yesterday, and he couldn't play. But hey, you know what? That's why the guys in the back end stepped up. Minnesota was able to beat Denver 110-98, and this is actually the first time in history of the playoffs where a team that didn't have their top 3 scorers that scored over 20 points a game, they ended up winning a series. So Minnesota have making a little history there, the T-Wolf side of it anyway. Jay McDaniels had 32 points, but it was Terry Shannon Jr., another fellow Illini grad. He had 24 points, was a career high, both career high, also playoff career high. Of course, Nasri had 15 off the bench. Julius Randle had 18 points. They only played 8 players, so you got to give Chris French credit. And French even kind of like called himself an idiot. I didn't say that. I'm not calling him an idiot, but he kind of basically said that he didn't know that Terrence Shannon Jr. Like, wait a minute, huh? I didn't know he had that. Like, you didn't watch him. He was at Illinois, Coach Finch. But okay, whatever. But look, just a great effort by the T-Wolves yesterday. And on the flip side, for Denver, I should say, Jokic had 28 points. He had 10 assists, only 9 rebounds. Jamal Murray only had 12 points. That was basically it. Cameron Johnson had 27, but that was basically it for the most part for Denver. I know there was no Aaron Gordon, but Minnesota was out 3 of their top scorers. So for people who want to say that, well, they didn't have Aaron Gordon. Well, Minnesota didn't have the top 3 scorers, and they pretty much all their guys stepped up.
Let me ask you this question, LaKeena, before I give out flowers for this game in this series. Which is the bigger storyline in this series? Minnesota winning without their top 3 scorers, or Denver choking?
Could it be both? The little Pastor Moshe with the little girl saying, "Why not both?" Okay.
But if you had to choose one, what would you choose?
I would say Minnesota, because I don't think any people had them, especially after you found out that Ayo was hurt. I think people thought that, okay, we're going to a game 7. Well, Terrence Shannon Jr. and McDaniels said, not so fast. McDaniels, look, he was the one that Jokic pushed a couple of games ago. So I think it's definitely akin to the fact that the way this team plays. Now, again, I don't think they're going to beat San Antonio. I think Wemby and Kellen Johnson and them are going to. I don't want to say they're going to sweep them out of the building, but I think they will fight. I think they will win 1, maybe 2 games, but I don't see them winning the series. But I think Minnesota just showed a lot of that tenacity.
I will give Minnesota their flowers in just a minute, but I think this series is going to be remembered for Denver choking. Here's why. Excuse me. Take Aaron Gordon's injury out of this to a T. I know that the injury that he's been suffering throughout this season, it dates back to this time last year where they played Oklahoma City in their second round of the playoffs. I said at the time, if he was healthy, they would beat OKC on the road in Game 7, but that's neither here or there. As we talked about through the last couple months of the regular season, what we've been talking about with this Denver team, LaKeena, Nikola Jokic is tired. He's been frustrated. He needs help. Jamal Murray, I've been his supporter throughout this show for years, even when we did our radio show back in downtown Chicago. I know he got his first All-Star nod this year. Congratulations. But ever since they won the title in 2023, Jamal Murray has been having bad moments in the playoffs. Unless I'm missing something, I do not remember him doing anything significant last year in that second round series against OKC. 2 years ago, he got he got crossed up against the Minnesota Timberwolves. This year, he didn't have so much of those playoff moments that we were accustomed him to seeing prior to that championship year in 2023. As you mentioned last night, 40 minutes, 12 points total, 4-17. You cannot get it done. Other guys, you mentioned Cameron Johnson. He was the only one that helped out Jokic consistently last night. So all the other guys we talked about, Tim Hardaway Jr., only 13 points off the bench. But outside of that, I know that Peyton Watson, we got to consider his injury factor in there too. But, guys like Christian Brown and Jones and Valanciunas and Bruce Brown, even though they brought him back this year, he was the first player to let go after they won the title 3 years ago. Those other veterans that were healthy enough to contribute offensively, they did not do that last night. And while I go to the other side with Minnesota and I'll start giving them flowers, shout out to Rudy Gobert, who played tremendous defensively in that series against Jokic. And you mentioned about Jay McDaniels and Nasri. Shout out to that whole Minnesota squad, especially those two players playing great defense in the perimeter. The Nuggets could not shoot the ball consistently, especially from the outside. Jokic, when we got double teamed, they swing out to they swing it out to Murray. Some of the other shooters, Christian Brown, those defenders like Jay McDaniels, they were ready to defend, and they made Denver take the shot. So give Minnesota defense, especially on the perimeter, credit for that. But I'm going to remember this series for Denver choking in terms of their supporting cast. It was Nikola Jokic doing everything. Everybody else, minus Aaron Gordon, minus Peyton Watson because of injuries. The rest of the players that were healthy enough to step up, they did not do that.
That's true. And also, if you believe the rumors that unfortunately they may trade Aaron Gordon, that supporting cast might be a lot different for the Nuggets coming up later this year. Go into the off season. So I don't know what's going to happen over there in Denver, but there could be some changes. We'll have to wait and see. But I kind of feel like Denver was, I don't want to say they were overrated coming into the year, but look, we knew that this would happen. We warned folks, even when they went that little run near the end of the season. I said, look, we said it. Jokic is tired. A lot of that supporting cast. I know they've had injuries with some of their supporting cast members, but you wonder, like you can tell, I think that's why Jokic got frustrated, last weekend. Yeah. But yeah, so it's going to be one of those things where you're just like, I think, look, there might be some changes in Denver. Look, I'm not going to say that Jokic is going to retire anytime soon, but you got to think that he is getting tired, and that's going to be the key here. Like, what's going to happen?
Yeah, let's just give you a wrap up on the Denver Nuggets. I think David Adelman is safe because remember he took over at the last week of the regular season last year. This season was his first complete full season. So I think David Adelman is safe. But like you say, some of those core pieces may have to go. It would stink if it's Aaron Gordon because he's been injured the last 2 years. But consider that core of Gordon, Jamal Murray, and Nikola Jokic. All of them are in their early 30s. How much long do you have in this window? Only time would tell.
Yeah, so it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Denver as we get into the off season for them. Guys, you're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown with you as we talk some more NBA playoffs here. Now, going into some of these games that are coming up tonight, and some of them are clinchers. All three of them are clinchers. We'll start with Detroit and Orlando. Now, Detroit did win the Wednesday game to force a game 6 here. Cade Cunningham 45 points in that game on Wednesday, but he can't do it all by himself, and I think that's really going to need to be said here. Look, I mean, Jalen's, it's going to be interesting to see what happens here, but Tobias Harris had 23 points, but guys like Osar Thompson, guys like Jalen Duren, I mean, look at Robinson as well. I mean, this is his first time rodeo doing this playoff. He did it for years out in Miami. They need to step up and help Cunningham out. They want to force a game 7.
And the guy played better defense on Pablo Banchero as well. Don't forget, he also had 45 points in that contest on Wednesday as well in a losing effort. For Orlando against Detroit. Did you check out Jamal Cain's facial dunk on Monday in Game 4? Clearly, thus far early in the playoffs, the dunk of the playoffs. So those of you who haven't seen it, check it out on social media. You can check it out here on YouTube as well. But going back to the series, LaKeena, that's been the problem for Detroit in all three of their losses this series has been Kate Cunningham,
Mhm.
and everybody else is just standing by and watching. You mentioned about Jalen Durant; he has to get it going. Isaiah Stewart, I threw his name in there on our last show. I'm throwing his name in there again. You got to step up again. You go. He only had 5 points the other night, even though they won. I believe he has to do a little bit more. Karis LeVert, he only had 2 points in 25 minutes the other night. We seen him bounced around the league. He's been very good at wherever he's been. He has to step up and do a bit more. And on the flip side for Orlando, you mentioned about Pablo Carroll. He scored 45 the other night. Let's give some love to Wendell Carter Jr. as well, former Bull. I know he had 9 points and 4 rebounds the other night, but he's been doing a very good job in other aspects of this series. Desmond Bain came out to play in this last game, despite the loss, 18 points as well. So Orlando's getting contributions for some of their other guys as well outside of Banchero. But for Detroit, their bench is going to have to step up 1,000% if they want to force a game 7 on Sunday.
Yeah, it's going to be, like I said, I think those guys really have to step up. Durant has not had a good series so far for Detroit. So he definitely, someone's got to help him out, help Kate Cunningham out. So he can't do it all by himself, folks. So yeah, they better get it going if they want to force a game 7 and come back to Detroit and have the Orlando come back with them. Another game that a clincher, Cleveland did beat Toronto. James Harden had 23 points in that game on Wednesday. So do you think that Toronto can win at home tonight and force a game 7?
It's going to be tough. I know Brandon Ingram only had 1 point in 11 minutes of action the other night, so that wasn't good. RJ Barrett actually led the team with 25. Of course, Scotty Barnes had 17. He's going to have to step up tonight, whether Brandon Ingram plays or not. RJ Barrett's got to continue his play. And you have to get some contributions from their bench. Murray Boyles for the Raptors, he's been having a hot-cold series for Toronto. He's been one of their few productive players outside of the big two I just mentioned for Toronto in this series. Maybe the clock is running out on them. But Cleveland is the play here, LaKeena. Hopefully they can get their contributions from their bench like they have been these last couple of games outside of Mitchell, outside of James Harden. We know about James Harden's failures in the playoffs throughout the years. Evan Mobley, who stepped up big the other night, had 23 points and 9 rebounds in game 5. My guy, Jared Allen, 9 points and 3 rebounds. I expect him to do a little bit more offensively, but he did a very good job the other night patrolling the paint. And also to Dennis Schroeder, who's been through the playoff wars throughout his career. He came up big off the bench for Cleveland with 19 points. So if Cleveland can continue to play very good basketball, get contributions outside of Mitchell and Harden, they should be able to wrap up this series tonight.
Gonna be very interested to see what, but that Toronto, that Toronto's gonna be rocking up there. So this isn't their first time, in playoffs. So I know it's been a few years, but this is not their first rodeo. So I'm sure that place will be loud tonight. So we'll see what happens. Now another potential clincher here. Now the Lakers will get another shot at clinching. Now, of course, Kevin Durant is not playing. They've already ruled him out. But I know there's some other stuff going on, but I won't get into that. But yeah, look, I mean, I think it's not enough messing around here. Look, Houston, they've been playing with house money, but if you're the Lakers, you better win this game down there in Houston. Look, we're gonna have to. LeBron's got to show a little bit of that LeBron from a few years back. Bubble LeBron maybe when they won that championship there, but. Guys like Luke Kennard, I know he struggled in that game, but he has to find his groove and help him out. I know Ayton actually had 18 points, but but he needs to step it up as well. So should Marcus Smart. So LeBron's got to be the LeBron from a few years ago in the playoffs, and also the other guys got to step up as well if they want to wrap this series up.
Yeah, I mentioned about Luke Kennard only had 1 point the other night. That's not going to get it done. Austin Reeves actually did well in his return to the lineup. 22 points in 34 minutes of action coming off the bench. So he's still trying to get his feet wet, getting back into the flow of things. Marcus Smart, RP Tom Heinsohn, he's doing all he can, especially on the defensive end of the floor. He mentioned by DeAndre and who's actually having a good series. Maybe me dissing him on our playoff preview show actually helped, but he's been doing very well. Like you said, you cannot depend on LeBron James to do everything. All the other guys got to step up, and that's how they got this 3-2 series lead. So they had to give that effort one more time if they want to close it out tonight. On the flip side for Houston, we mentioned about their supporting cast not getting it done, especially in the first 2 games of the series when it was in Los Angeles. But you mentioned about Reese Shepard. He picked it up in Game 5 the other night, scoring 12 points. Amin Thompson with 16 points. Jabari Smith Jr. Led the team with 22 points, including 7 rebounds and 3 assists. He was definitely a big factor, especially down the stretch when the Lakers were trying to come back in. Tari Eason had 18 points as well. So you mentioned Houston's playing with house money. They forced the Lakers, especially LeBron James, into some bad, lazy 3-point shots late stages in that game when the Lakers were trying to come back. But Houston did just enough to hold on for that Game 5 victory.
Yeah, I think if you're Houston, I think, look, I know Apparel Sugren said that they're going to come back and win. So, yeah, well, you better back it up. So I'm looking forward to see what happens tonight. I know Scott Foster is going to be refereeing the game. So take that wherever you as you will. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see.
You don't have to worry about Chris Paul anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, so the Lakers, yeah, I think if you're the Lakers, you better go get into a big start here and take the crowd. Well, I mean, you know what? There are a lot of Laker fans there anyway, and I believe Houston, the Astros are, they can't play in the Astros so for this weekend if the crowd's not there. So, yeah, I think if you're the Lakers, you want to try to take advantage of that.
Yeah, speaking of the NBA playoff schedule, we'll run through the games tonight. All 3 games can be seen on Amazon Prime Video. Starting with the Pistons and the Magic, Game 6 from Orlando. That's at 6 p.m. tonight on Amazon Prime. Like I said, Orlando leads at best the series 3-2 with a chance to move on. At 6:30, Cleveland and Toronto, Game 6 from Canada. Cleveland leads at best the 7 series 3-2, followed by the Lakers and the Rockets, Game 6. So that series live from Houston. That's at 8:30 p.m. All 3 games can be seen on Amazon Prime. And the Lakers-Rockets series, of course, the Lakers lead that best of 7 series 3-2.
And, of course, Game 7 tomorrow night on NBC and streaming on Peacock. You got Philadelphia and Boston. That should be a lot of fun. And I'm sure the Rays have been very solid, so I expect the Rays to be very high for this Game 7, especially since it's going to be on NBC.
Yeah, following the Kentucky Derby coverage. So, yeah, the Lakers-Celtics historic rivalry, Game 7. Of course, LaKeena, I to reference this real quick. 1982, Game 7. Dr. J and crew upset Larry Bird and the Celtics, and Boston got in 1982. Can Philadelphia do that again? We'll see. But like I said, a historical Game 7 between these two longtime rivals. It should be fun. And your schedule for Sunday, as of now, looks like this. Potential Game 7 between the Raptors and Cavaliers should it go the full distance. The Rockets and Lakers are scheduled for Sunday should it go to a Game 7. And the Magic and Pistons Game 7 will be on Sunday should that series go to 7 games. That's your weekend schedule for the NBA playoffs.
All right, we'll do that. Hockey coming up next. The Stanley Cup Playoffs. There are some teams in advance. Could we be seeing perhaps maybe one team force a Game 7? We'll talk about a couple of teams, couple of chances for Game 7 to be forced. We'll talk about that. And also some sports media news, including a good friend of the show getting a well-deserved promotion. Also, could Russell Wilson be on his way, going into the studio starting this year? And also a little bit of golf. What will the live players do? Looks like it's going to be bye-bye for them. That is so much more. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports Chicago Sports Potpourri segment coming up right after this.
Poof!
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch. And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch. You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Whoops. Let's try an easy one.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey McGee, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on the hashtag Friday Fun Edition, the first show for the month of May. You're live downloaded and we're live in living color right here on Sports. Sidney Brown. Here is me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and IG.
This is our sports potpourri segment. This is our last break of for the show for today and for the week. So if you have any last minute questions or comments of any of the topics we discussed thus far on today's show, you better hit us up not now, but right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
We do that. Let's do that. Hockey said there's the Stanley Cup Playoffs, as some teams have already advance in the playoffs, including some series that just wrapped up last night. Edmonton, well, they lost to Anaheim and lose the series 5-2. And it's going to be interesting, to see what Edmonton does during the offseason, because unfortunately, once again, a lot was expected of Edmonton, and that didn't come to fruition. Anaheim was just too much for them. I give Joe Quenneville credit for getting the Ducks here. Ryan Poling started off the scoring with that, and also Troy Terry. He had a couple of assists in the game yesterday, and like I said, Anaheim, sends Edmonton packing.
Yeah, like we talked about when we previewed some of these series, that the Edmonton, they've been one of those. We'll talk about another team that's been on the edge for the last few years and knocking on the door again in Stanley Cup Championship in just a moment. But Edmonton was one of those teams. They've been regressing over the last couple years. Now this year, losing in the first round, Connor McDavid, I know the frustration has to be set in his face. Well, what can I do to get to at least play in the Stanley Cup final, let alone win a championship? And that's why, in my opinion, it's the hardest trophy to win in all of sports, because it takes a whole lot out of you to get that silver trophy. But back to Anaheim, we talked about it at various points throughout the season. Looking at, they bid up a nice, fast, young squad over the last 2 or 3 years. Coach Joe Quenneville was the right coach for this group, and we've seen that throughout this series. I know both teams didn't have any goaltending to start this series, but Anaheim changed all that around in games 4 and 5. Well, even though they lost game 5, they still stuck with it. They almost had a chance to win that one, but they closed it out last night at home in Game 6. That's a nice young squad that could give any teams any trouble throughout the rest of this playoff run. But I'm not saying that this Anaheim team reminds me of that old 2009 Chicago Blackhawks squad that came out of nowhere before they got swept by Detroit in the Western Conference Finals. But some of those elements do remind me of that '09 Chicago Blackhawks team. So watch out for that element there. So Coach Joe Quenneville, now the second, we talked about it the other day, he's his second winningest coach in NHL history with 125 playoff wins and hopefully counting. And so this is a nice young squad. If you guys haven't watched Anaheim yet, they are fast. They can get up and down, and they can get a little tough with you as well, as we saw that the last couple of games of this series against Edmonton.
Yeah, I do feel bad for Colton, Connor Murphy, Jason Dickinson, and Kobe Dog. Of course, they were former Blackhawks players that got sent to the Oilers for first and second round pick, and unfortunately they end up losing the first round. So yeah, to a former Blackhawks coach. So that's kind of like the irony of all this here. Now on the flip side, though, Minnesota, they wrap up their series against Dallas 5-2, winning that series. Quentin Hughes had a couple big goals, including the big one that broke the tie about halfway through the third period, I should say. Of course, Matt Boldy, who was making up for lost time after not having playoff goals, and he had two last night. And ironically, speaking of with the Wild and the T-Wolves, it's actually the first year ever that both of them have advanced into the second round, which I had to think about it for a second, like, really? But you think about it, the T-Wolves were not around when the North Stars were around. And of course, either one team doesn't make the playoffs or one team doesn't go far, or both teams get it, but one advances, the other one doesn't. So yeah, I can kind of see the history there. But yeah, the Wild look really good. And of course, Nick Foligno's over there playing with his brother, and now they advance to the second round.
Yeah, I told you that Minnesota was going to win in 6. You saw Wild exploded with 3 goals in the third. Shout out to the Minnesota Wild organization. They let Marc-Andre Fleury do the him and his 3 beautiful children, let's play hockey chant intro before the face on. Of course, the crowd the crowd went nuts. But before last night's game, LaKeena, on 5-on-5 action, the Dallas Stars were outscored 11-3. That's been the key in this series. And of course, last night, as I mentioned, Minnesota exploded for 3 goals in the third. So on 5-on-5 hockey, the Dallas Stars can't stop anybody. And we talked about this with Edmonton just a moment ago. Dallas Stars been knocking on the door for that Stanley Cup championship over the last few years. They have a good roster, but just for some reason, they just cannot pull through. The goaltending for the Minnesota Wild has stepped up these last few games, and you saw it again, especially in that throughout the game, but definitely when it mattered most in that third period last night.
Yeah, and I think that was really the key here. And of course, like I said, the power play has been kind of a thing here as well for them. Quentin Hughes, of course, been able to take advantage of that. So yeah, I think Minnesota. Look, like I said, I had Dallas in 7, so that I had to take the L for that one. But yeah, I think look, Minnesota just showed you why they're actually were a sleeper among some teams. So we'll see what they can do in the next round here. Now they're actually are awaiting their opponent coming up. But as we get into the schedule, of course, we'll recap Wednesday's action. Montreal beat Tampa. They take a 3-2 lead going into tonight's game. I think for me, especially with the Canadiens, I feel like this is one of those. Like I said, I picked the Canadiens in 6. I'm gonna stick with that. I think they've got the Kirby Dach. I think he could definitely. I think that Montreal squad, I think, could do just enough. Now again, if Tampa wins tonight, I wouldn't be surprised, but I think Montreal should have this series in hand.
And as with that Game 5 victory the other night, correct me if I'm wrong, but this was Montreal's first regulation win in this series, because the previous 2 wins that they had in the series, they both took extra time to get it done. So Tampa Bay is we talked about on the show, one of the shows last week after the Game 1 loss. So John Cooper basically called out his team. Now they did respond, but their backs against the wall 3-2. So like you said, I wouldn't be surprised if Tampa Bay won it tonight. But it's been a hard-fought physical series as well. So it's going to come down to, can Montreal set that tone early and make Tampa Bay chase it. If they could do that, they'll win this hockey game.
All right. So, like I said, we've had a couple of series that have gone final. Philadelphia beat Pittsburgh 1-0 in overtime to clinch that series. And the thriller there, what a thriller that game was. Cam York with about 2.5 minutes left in overtime. The first overtime scored that game winner. And Rick Tocchet, to his credit, called out. He was on the McAfee show a couple of days ago. They called McAfee out for basically picking Pittsburgh to win that series. So, so there you go with that. But yeah, I think
Mr. Gambling Man talking trash now.
Well, look, I think if Philadelphia wins, I think he can talk all the trash he wants. But yeah, I think the Flyers, look, their speed was just too much for the Penguins. They just couldn't. It was like Pittsburgh, just didn't have their chance. I think they had a couple of chances, especially in that overtime, to perhaps maybe force Game 7, but that just it just wasn't to be.
Yeah, this is what happens in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Sometimes you play close to a quote-unquote perfect game and still lose, and that's what happened to Pittsburgh the other night. And also too during the during the Stanley Cup playoffs, you have a couple of breaks that you should take advantage of. If you don't take advantage of them, you're gonna go home on the other end. That's what happened to the Penguins. So congratulations to the Flyers. They're going to play your Carolina Hurricanes. Can the Hurricanes stop this young flying Flyers squad? It's definitely going to be difficult. Because if the Flyers get out flying early, it's going to be Carolina. They cannot. If they, I'll put it in simplest terms. If Carolina gets into a fast track series with Philadelphia, they're going to lose. It's just that simple, in my opinion.
Yeah, they've had troubles with fast teams this year. We know Philadelphia can play fast, so that's a kid to their coach, of course. He had his moments. We'll play fast back in the day, but yeah, I think it's going to be interesting though. I think this could go 7. I think don't be surprised if it does. I think Carolina's got the finesse, but Philadelphia's got the speed, and I think in the NHL, especially when it comes to the Stanley Cup playoff time, speed can kill you just as much as a goalie sitting on his head can. So they gotta find a way. I'm talking about the Hurricanes to slow them down. So that's gonna be a tough series for Carolina, no doubt.
I'm taking Carolina in 6, but like you said, I wouldn't be surprised if we went to full 7.
And of course, Vegas got a goal in double overtime on Wednesday to take a 3-2 series lead, and that's in that series against Utah. And look, I would say take the over tonight, I guess, again. But yeah, I mean, but I think, I think Vegas is one of those teams where they're totally different when they play on the road as they do at home. So they were able to take advantage of that energy from that crowd at T-Mobile Arena. But it's going to be a very tough one to get that clincher going. But Vegas, if Utah wins, I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, I think Utah has got the players, and a lot of some of those guys do have playoff experience. So, I mean, could Utah would be surprised if Utah plays and wins and force a Game 7? I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, you talk about Vegas playing different in front of the home crowd. Let's talk about the Utah Mammoth. They play very different in front of their crowd, formerly known as the Delta Center. No, it's not called that anymore, but I think it's Energy Solutions Arena, whatever the hell it's called now. But their players definitely feed off their home crowd, so I wouldn't be surprised if they won tonight either. But it's time for one of these goalies to stand up on his head, LaKeena. Unless I'm missing something, I haven't seen that in this series. Like I said, it's been mostly scoring that's dominated this series, but for the Vegas Golden Knights to change their trend around as far as playing shaky on the road, they're going to need their starting goalie to stand on his head tonight if they want to move on. Because, like we said, that this Utah team, just like we talked about with Philadelphia to let's just say Anaheim, they're a fast young team, especially at home, and they feed off their energy. And they got the legs, they got the speed. But Vegas, like you said, they have those veterans, but they need their goalie to stand on his head tonight if they want to move forward and close out the series.
Yeah, I think both goalies got to step up. So, but yeah, we'll see if they can have to take the over on this one. But yeah, I don't know what the over-under is, but yeah, I would take the over. I guess that's 5.5.
The total goals scored tonight according to Vegas, 5.5.
I would say tape the over, I guess.
You heard it here first.
I don't know. Like I said, if either one of their goalies, stand on their head and perhaps maybe make a big showing tonight. I mean, look, it's gonna be interesting, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see with that one. But I think Vegas will pull it out. I think.
All right, let's get into the schedule for this weekend in the Stanley Cup Playoffs. Tonight at 6 p.m. on ESPN2 is Game 6 between Montreal and Tampa Bay. Montreal leads that series 3-2 with a chance to close it out. At 6:30 on the big ESPN, we have the Boston Bruins and the Buffalo Sabres. Let's talk about this series for a minute. It's Game 6 of that series live from Boston tonight from the TD Bank North Garden, formerly known as the Fleet Center. That's tonight on ESPN. It's Game 6. Buffalo had a chance to wrap it up the other night in front of the home fans. Boston kept their season alive. Game 6 tonight. Buffalo has played well in Boston. They stole a couple of games in that series or in Boston, but tonight I think the pressure's on Buffalo to get this thing done. Boston's starting to gain a little bit more confidence. As we said a couple of weeks ago, this could be an intense and physical series. It's turned out to be that way. Buffalo has outplayed the Bruins for the most part in this series outside the last game. I think the pressure's on Buffalo tonight to get this done because you definitely, even though Game 7 will be on your home ice, anything can happen in Game 7. Buffalo, you need to wrap it up tonight.
Yeah, I think both teams are pressure, but I think more the pressure I think is on. I think both teams. I think both have the pressure. So, this is going to be a good one tonight. Like I said, I think being away from home, I think could help Buffalo a little bit. Tate Thompson, I think he's going to have to step up. He's kind of like one of the kind of like the guy for Buffalo. So I think he's going to have to step it up. They have to get into a quick start early to get the TD Garden crowd out of it. So we'll see if that's the case tonight.
And wrapping up tonight's schedule, we'll have Game 6 of the Utah-Vegas series. That's live from Salt Lake City. That's at 9 p.m. on ESPN. Vegas leads that best-of-7 series 3-2.
And on Saturday tomorrow, of course, this will be the prime game on ABC. You got the first game of the Eastern Conference second round. Semifinals we call it here, but they call it the second round. Philadelphia and Carolina going to be very fast. So fast-paced, a game. We know Carolina likes to slow it down, so that should be a fun series.
Yep, and that's at 7 o'clock tomorrow night on ABC. Your schedule for Sunday looks like this. All, if necessary, Game 7s, Buffalo, Boston, Utah, Vegas, and Canadiens and Lightning. If either of those games, series, fail to wrap up tonight, they'll be scheduled for this Sunday. And that's your schedule for the Stanley Cup Playoffs this weekend.
And check this out, this little stat if I can find it. I just had it, but multiple teams that didn't make the playoffs last year, they're going to be advancing to the second round. Colorado, they didn't make the playoffs last year. Neither Minnesota, Anaheim, Philadelphia, neither Montreal or Tampa or Buffalo or Boston. So I guess parity in the NHL, I guess. But yeah, you listen to Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown with you. Let's do a little sports media news. Sid, we'll start with this one news that came across the wires yesterday involving one of our good friends, Cassie Carlson, of course, Chicago native. She is now being named the main anchor. She's going to be the main anchor for Fox Chicago. She's also going to be running the sports department as well, along with Miss Tina Nguyen. So it looks like for right now at least, it's going to be two women that's going to be leading the charge there. Of course, Cassie, of course, we have a friend of the show who's she's terrific. We've seen her over the we'll try to see if we get her on. She's going to be very busy, of course, but yeah, this is very deserving, of course. Like I said, they're gonna have two women lead the sports department there, at least for right now. That's not to say they may not ask somebody else down the road, but this is a very deserving promotion for Cassie.
Yeah, like you said, she's from the Palatine, I believe, from the Chicago suburbs, and she came here 4 years ago. She's done an outstanding job, not just covering the Bears, but covering everything else Chicago sports. And she did a very good job a few months ago filling in on the Mully and Hall show on now 104.3 the score. So I'm glad she's getting the expansion and the recognition that she deserves, again, other opportunities as well. So I read the article from another good friend of the show, Jeff Agres, the sports media columnist for the Chicago Sun-Times, that one of their big plans is to expand the role in a digital role. And you notice that most of these TV stations across the country, except for as far as we know, CBS 2 Chicago is broadcasting their news live also on YouTube. You notice that Fox 32 Chicago, if you've been paying attention over the last few months, they've been broadcasting their newscasts and their sports programming on YouTube as well. So hopefully they get expand on it. I know they will, especially with Bear season coming up in a few months. So numbers are looking good over there. Hopefully they can expand on that some more.
Yeah, and we know that our buddies from GN Sports, they do their own little they do kind of like a sports show. If you guys remember, they've been doing that the last couple of months. Yep, yeah. So they've been doing that the last couple of months. So maybe that's kind of like a play on that, if you will. They do a little sports, but they do a little playfulness as well. And I think ABC7 does something similar at the very least.
Yeah, overtime. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if NBC Chicago does it. I'm not sure. They might.
I don't know.
Yeah. So they're them and yeah. So yeah, I know Cass has been very adamant about expanding digital presence. I think that's really going to be the thing here for a lot of stations. We've seen it across the country. You gotta keep people's attention because especially with your sportscast will get like about 3 or 4 minutes max. So people want to have that that feeding frenzy of having their sports locally, nationally, college, whatever. They want to have that part of that they can go to right there in one of their devices, whether it's their smart TV or computer or their smartphone. And look, they want to have that presence. I'm glad that a lot of the stations here in Chicago are following suit here.
Like I said, CBS 2 Chicago should be following suit, especially with their sports, but I'll leave that alone. But with Fox 32, I know they had their daily sports show, Chicago Sports Tonight. If you miss it live on television, like yours surely does because of work, you can catch it on their YouTube page and extended interviews also on their YouTube page. I believe Facebook as well. So I know you're a big Facebook person. I'm not. So, but you can catch it on other platforms as well. So it's all about getting it out there, getting it to the people. Because let's be honest here, LaKeena, outside of live sports, not too many TV programs are making money just like that. So, like you said, with local news in general and local sportscasts getting 2, maybe 3 minutes a piece, you need that expansion. So platforms like this is a big way to help increase and get people's attention.
Yeah, and I'm more of a YouTube person as well, so I think that's really the key here, getting that content flowing on YouTube. So yeah, I know Cassie says she's been very, very vocal about that, and they've actually, she and Tina have done a great job of doing that. So we'll see if they can, with this new chapter of hers, we'll see, if they can expand it.
Yeah, speaking of getting people's attention, let's turn it over to the National Football League. This story broke earlier this morning. Russell Wilson, he may be in retirement mode because the NFL on CBS may be coming to call him because he's really eyeing on his second career as far as television is concerned. We made a joke about it last year, LaKeena, when he filled in during the bye week of the New York Football Giants. He was a guest analyst on the NFL Today. We saw Kirk Cousins, now the member of the Las Vegas Raiders. He filled in for Matt Ryan during the playoffs. He did an okay job. And our good friend Jonathan Hood from ESPN 1000 says if Russell Wilson decides to go on TV, he'll replace Michael Strahan, quote unquote, as the next guy on Good Morning America. But if Russell Wilson decides to hang it up, it looks like CBS is going to give him the first opportunity to become a TV analyst.
Yeah, give credit to Andrew Marchand from the New York Daily News, the Athletic, I should say, for breaking this news earlier this morning. And nothing's finalized yet, but they are in deep talks about Wilson and CBS, the NFL Today. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what he does. But yeah, what a tough choice. Either be the backup quarterback for the Jets or getting the job at CBS. So I don't know. It's a tough decision, but we'll see what he does. I'm sure he's going to talk it over with his wife Sierra and their family. And look, I think he replacing Matt Ryan. Of course, this could be a nice second career for him. And look, we know he's got a great personality and he's very smart. So I know everyone has already said, even when he was at the height of his career, though, people were saying that, look, he could be doing some TV work. So, I think it'll be interesting to see what he does with this. If they get this, if they decided to, if there's something is official, but we'll see within the next week or two if it is official. But this would be a good move for both CBS and him.
Yeah, and we saw that what NBC did with Mike Tomlin. That's expected. He's going to be their new analyst for Sunday Night Football. Of course, Russell Wilson, he's just now leaving the game that this becomes to fruition. You're getting the young, the athletes just just stop playing the game. They can give a new and fresh perspective on what's going on in the National Football League. They still are staying connected to the game. It's not one of these, not all of them, but some of them, these bitter athletes from 20 years ago. Oh, I didn't get my $200 million payday. I don't like this. Like Paul Pierce against LeBron James back in the day. You're getting a new, fresh perspective in. You're trying to get those younger viewers to watch your programs as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like I said, we'll see if this all is going to be official within the next week or two, but yeah, we'll keep you guys updated on that. Now, let me see if there's any other lawful announcement has any other media news and such. Not really seeing anything of note here. We talked about the chicken wing thing with Jim Palmer earlier. I know NFL Network has gone dark on Comcast. That disappeared for Comcast subscribers. So since the Comcast subscriber, of course, they try to get a new agreement. Of course, now with ESPN taking ownership, it looks like, at least for right now, no NFL Network for Comcast Xfinity customers. They're still trying to work on a new deal to sell the distribute with the distributor. I guess they want to. Yeah, I know it's a pain, but yeah, to the rise in the in the fees and such. So, what do you think, Sid? You're a Comcast customer. I know you're not very happy with this right now.
Yeah, I wish I could show you if I could flip my laptop over, but I'll just read it as it says verbatim on the screen. This channel is unavailable. Contract with the owner of this channel has ended. As a result, the channel is currently unavailable through Xfinity. Scan the QR code or visit xfinity.com/how it works to learn more. No, get your stuff together so we can watch NFL football. But I think it's not as big of a deal because, like you said, we're in the off season is after the NFL draft. I think next week or the week after the schedule release is supposed to take place. I know it'll get some attention for days, but after that middle of your season, it's not that big of a deal. But if we get into July and August, where your training camp starts underway and the preseason is underway, and this is still going on, it's going to be major.
I think if you're ESPN, you want to try to get it set up before that schedule release coming up in a couple of weeks. So I don't think you or other Comcast customers should worry about that right now. I think it'll be fine. I think they will figure it out. It might be something like very similar as distribution or whatever, maybe tiers and what have you. So I think Comcast customers should not be worried right now. I think they want to get this sell before the schedule release. I know because the ratings were very high for the NFL draft on all three networks, ESPN, ABC, and of course NFL Network. I think they want to get this thing settled before the schedule release because I know people are going to be tuning in to watch it. So we'll see what happens there. Now, of course, Michael Wilbon on Get Up. I guess he had people, Bears fans in a frenzy saying that, the Bears are going to play the Seahawks. He just said that he didn't say it verbatim. He just said he believes that he's doing that. They're doing that. So I don't know. What do you think, Sid?
Mike Wilbon's been around for a long time, a hometown guy, a Chicago guy, and he doesn't just shoot at the hip for no reason. I'm sure he has some intel from some people that he knows. He knows a lot of people around the NFL. So I don't think he would say something like that unless he knows something. So I wouldn't put it past him if he's correct. If the Bears should open up the season against Seattle on opening weekend, whether it's Sunday night or Monday Night Football. So we'll see what happens there. As you mentioned, the NFL schedule releases as an interest to everyone because a whole lot of people plan their vacations, their week are expensive and planning their waiting with anticipation for these next couple of weeks. So we'll see what happens. But they open up against Seattle. There's a whole lot of Bears fans that haven't been to Seattle. I'm one of them, but for those that haven't been to Seattle, they want to go on week one. They're waiting patiently. If that's the case, there's going to be so many Bears fans flying to Seattle to catch that opening game of the season. Yeah, and plus, they'll draw big primetime ratings as well. As I just mentioned, if they open up on Sunday night or Monday night.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know if that's the case, but yeah, because you don't know what you're going to get with the Bears this year. they could take a step back. Who knows? But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I mean, people are taking it as gospel, and of course he was guessing, but we'll see what happens. Now, the Kentucky Derby, of course, as Sid mentioned before, that Philadelphia-Boston Game 7, it'll be the Kentucky Derby. Some of your favorites, Renegade. No, these are the horses' names, folks. They did the draw early this morning. Renegade is your favorite. So is Commandments. Further Ado, that's my pick, and then also Chief Wallaby. So those are your favorites. The post positions have already been announced early this morning. So if you want to, gambling, friendly, wagers, of course, it's all right there for you. But they had a couple of scratches, but you can watch coverage of that starting at, I believe, at 2:00 Central Time on ESPN from Churchill Downs.
Yeah, did you get your pick of Eddie Olczyk?
I haven't caught him yet, so but yeah, yeah.
Because I know he's usually good with these things, so we'll see what happens. With the Kentucky Derby can actually be seen on NBC tomorrow. Coverage starts at 1:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Even though horse race has definitely taken a back seat the last couple years, I would like to attend just one Kentucky Derby as a part of my sports calendar journey travel. So I would like to at least go to that event at least one time. How about you?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think it's mid juleps and whatever. Yeah, I love to go to all three of those Triple Crown races, the Belmont and the Preakness as well. But it's more of like for we'll see what stars are going to be out there tomorrow. That's usually and you can see that coverage, of course, on NBC, like I said before, the Philadelphia Boston Game 7. So a big sports afternoon going into the evening for NBC. Now, real quick, with the Live Golf, of course, the Saudi backup money. Apparently, I know Scott O'Neill, we've talked about the last couple of times, we're going to go Christine Manica, but yeah, apparently it's going to be all but curtains, and we hear guys like Bryson DeChambeau, and of course a few other guys have talked to the PGA Tour, perhaps maybe coming back to the PGA Tour. We know Brooks Koepka looks like the smartest man in the world now, so just to kind of weirdness there. Look, I got no problem with them chasing the money. Look, I'm a capitalist, but it just wasn't a good long-term investment.
Yeah, as one of my top 5 favorite rappers of all time, Kumo D and the great Wesley Snipes, aka Nino Brown, said in the movie New Jack City, "Money talks, BS runs a marathon." Just saying.
Nicely done there. Now, anything else before we disperse, my friend?
I'm ready to enjoy this weekend. We're another heavy field action packed sports weekend with baseball, basketball, and hockey. I'm just trying to enjoy every minute of it.
All right, that's saying you can follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and again to IG.
You can follow your Shirley Sidney Brown on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80, that's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
And if you have any, if you missed either one, if you missed a segment or an interview that we've done, don't worry. You can catch it anytime, anywhere on Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels. You can catch replays of our show, Sean Sierra Sports, the Smoke Fellas, and so much more of the great content we got here on Sports Zone Chicago. You can catch it anytime, anywhere on the network's Facebook and YouTube channels.
And we will provide.
Enjoy all the great sports. As Sid said, of course, if you're a Kentucky Derby person, look, I mean, gamble responsibly. And, of course, the rest of the playoffs and basketball and hockey and, of course, baseball and so much more. So, and also stay warm out there. I know it's going to be a little bit cooler in some spots, especially here. We're talking about frost here for tonight. So stay warm out there, folks. Don't pull away those light, like medium jackets just yet. But Forrest said, I'm LaKeena from Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. Be safe out there, folks, and we'll see you guys on Monday.
Go Sox. Holla!